You need people like me. You need people like me so you can point your fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
We'll speak about Nick Ball. I think the first name that comes to everyone is Inoue. Yeah. Obviously, I know you're not looking past Sam Goodman, but have you had conversations with Frank? Have you had conversations with the team behind the scenes to say that's a fight that you're targeting?
Yeah, everyone wants it to happen, don't they? Everyone's speaking about it, everyone's asking me about it, so that is the fight that everyone wants to happen. I don't know whether they feel I'm the man to beat him, but
Are you the man to beat him?
Of course I am, yeah, definitely.
When you watch him and you see maybe that knockdown in the last fight, do you see things that you think that's it? Nick Ball beats Inoue easily?
Yeah, I wouldn't say easily. I wouldn't really know until I get in there with him. That's me real honest answer. But
saw this interview via IFL TV with reigning WBA featherweight champion Nick Ball, and I immediately became annoyed. Not because I don't like the idea of Ball versus Inoue, but because Nick Ball has been champion for about a year now. So it's been about a year, little over a year, of Ball versus Inoue this, Ball versus Inoue that, when there are 3 other champions at the weight that I would like to see Nick Ball fight, at least in the interim. While we wait for Inoue to eventually move up, can we get some unification matches? Because Nick Ball has been WBA champion for a year. Angelo Leo has been champion for a year as well. Rafael Espinosa has been a champion for close to 2. Stefan got his belt earlier this year. All the same, these guys need to fight. More than worrying about a super bantamweight one day moving up in weight, they need to fight each other. Turkey needs to finance that. There's no reason that he shouldn't. The decision to move up in weight will ultimately fall on Inoue and nobody else. Not pressure from Nick, not pressure from Turkey. He's not about to move up. He's fighting Muradjan Akhmadaliev this September. I saw something about him fighting again, potentially, in December. His countryman, Junto Nakatani. He's about to move into Naoya Inoue's division. Gee, I wonder why. How many times do I gotta say that the biggest bang for your buck fight for Inoue at this point, it's not actually at featherweight, it's staying put. It's staying right there at 122 long enough to fight Junto Nakatani. That's the biggest fight for Inoue right now, and that's why any mention of him moving up to feather for Nick Ball... I mean, how many times are you gonna ask Nick Ball about this? Ask him about unification matches. Ask him about Angelo Leo, Rafa Espinosa, Stephen Fulton. Ask him about the guys that are within proximity of him. Not a guy who we all know is preoccupied right now.
Ask him! We gotta sleep with to get some unification matches around here!
he's been hurt. He's been hurt of lesser people than me. And once he's got up, they've sort of been shocked when he's got up and went on the back foot themselves, whereas I wouldn't do that. I'd be full on him for the full 12 rounds, however many it'd go, you get me? So I wouldn't just be hitting him and then stepping off him and respecting him. It'd be full on from the opening bell.
Is that something you target in the next 12 months? Do you have a plan with your team to say Inoue has to happen in the next 12 to 18 months?
It's not that it has to happen. It's whether they want it to happen, and they've spoke about it that much for it not to happen. So even Turkey himself, he says he wants it to happen. So it's got to happen, hasn't it? Obviously not looking past Saturday night, got to get the win there first, and he's got to win his fight. But it's been spoke about that much and sort of promoted.
I usually table any talk about a Ball versus Inoue fight because we don't know when Inoue is going to move up. We don't even know that he will make it past either Muradjan or Junto afterwards. There is so much that we don't know. And what about Nicky? How long will Nick Ball be able to keep making featherweight healthy? He's not getting any younger. When there are that many variables and intangibles in play, Trying to forecast the outcome of a fight is a redundancy, operating on the premise that it were next. Hypothetically speaking, if Inoue were to move up in weight and fight Nick Ball next, what are the dangers? What are the challenges? Well, Nick Ball ain't the guy who's going to sit there and fence and fiddle with you throughout the rounds. He's not going to do that. He's going to go right at you.
He's a pressure guy. That's what they do, for better or worse.
May not have all the wrinkles and subtleties of a Naoya Inoue or the career accolades, but what makes Nick Ball dangerous is because he's not going to respect you, and he's not coming to box. If you let him get too close, he's going to rough you up. So he puts you in a situation where you have to respond, and you have to respond in a timely fashion. There are very few quiet moments in a Nick Ball fight.
He's a handful for full-grown, full-blown featherweights. So just imagine a super bantam that's moving up in weight. Not a very big one.
No, he's not a big guy. I think people tend to forget that 122 is his fourth weight. His fourth division.
Nick is a threat.
Seeing some refer to Nick as being a very simple fighter, and maybe he is. Easy to understand when all you have to do is watch him. But if you have to fight him, well, then it's not so simple.
Bottom line, I don't know when, if ever, we're going to get an Inoue versus Ball fight, but Nick is a threat to Inoue.
And that's not a hot take. In men's welterweight news, former WBA champion Eimantas Stanionis will face Jubilani Makhense in Lithuania homecoming bout.
Makhense!
Eimantas Stanionis now has an official opponent for his long-overdue homecoming headliner. Eimantas Stanionis, the former WBA welterweight champion, will face South Africa's Jabulani Makhense atop a September 27th show at Zalgiris Arena in his hometown of Kaunas, Lithuania. The scheduled 10-round welterweight bout will mark Stanionis' first pro appearance in his native country. Too bad they waited for him to get his ass kicked before throwing him a homecoming bout. The event comes on the heels of his first career defeat. Stanionis, 15-1, with 9 knockouts and 1 no contest, was stopped after 6 rounds by Jaron Boots Ennis, 34-0, with 30 KOs in their WBA IBF welterweight unification bout this past April in Atlantic City, New Jersey. Stanionis, a 2016 Olympian from Lithuania, claimed the secondary version of the WBA title in April of 2022 and was eventually upgraded to full champion when Terrence Bud Crawford, 41-0 with 31 KOs, moved up to junior middle last summer. His primary title reign came without a successful defense, as he hadn't fought since a May 2024 win over Gabriel Maestre, prior to his above-mentioned defeat to Ennis. The wide gap between fights is, unfortunately, a recurring theme in Stanionis' pro career. The win over Maestre marked his lone secondary title defense, having not fought since his April 2022 split decision win over a then unbeaten Radzav Butaev. Ennis, Maestre, and Butaev were all unbeaten at the time they faced Stanionis, in bouts spread about over 3 years. Makhense, 16-2, with 8 KOs, will fight outside of South Africa for just the second time in his 9-year pro boxing career. The 32-year-old fringe welterweight contender from Pretoria, Gauteng, also takes a considerable leap in competition. He enters this assignment having won his last 2 starts in May and June, following a 20-month ring absence after a September 2023 12-round unanimous decision to unbeaten Vitaly Petrayakov on the road in Russia. In addition to the homecoming, Stanionis gets a much-needed second fight of the year. He has not enjoyed that rate of activity since 2021, a year where his second fight was a truncated 5-round no contest with former WBA welterweight champion Luis Colazo.
I saw the poster for the fight, for Stanionis' homecoming fight. I did not see a PBC on Prime insignia.
I saw Top Sport, I saw Stanionis Promotions, but nothing about the PBC, which leads me to believe that when they do this thing, it may not be aired on Amazon Prime. It doesn't seem to be happening in association with the PBC, and in a very general sense, the PBC have done a piss-poor job of keeping this fighter active.
Keeping this fighter fighting. They are to blame for Stanionis' sparse schedule of activity.
To some degree, he is too, because the last year and a half, 2-3 years, you started to see a lot of PBC fighters leaving, jumping ship to go where the opportunities are, so that if you're sat around still waiting on them, that's your fault.
Yeah, that's on you. The writing's been on the wall for a while.
But this is still good. I mean, he's doing the right thing. Getting back out there before the year is out, trying to end the year on a win and not a loss, and not letting too much time pass in between your last fight and your next one. That's the right way to go about things. I remember when Joseph Parker was stopped by Joe Joyce. It didn't take him long to come back, and look at all the momentum that he amassed as a result, fighting in a series of smaller fights that eventually led to bigger ones. So Makhense Stanionis is doing the right thing.
Beyond the Makhense fight, if he wins, what comes after that?
It's my understanding that this fight with Makhense is being fought at a catch weight of 150 pounds, and anything above 147, that's junior middle.
Not welter. Welter stops at 147. That's the limit.
I guess he decided to take it easy for his next fight, not boiling all the way down to welter, coming in just above at 150, because that's what I heard. 150-pound catch weight. Makhense Stanionis doesn't have the frame, the adequate physical dimensions to campaign as a junior middle moving forward, that if he did that, he would be on the much smaller end of the spectrum as far as junior middleweights go. He wasn't that big a puncher as a welter. He's not going to be a bigger one at junior middle.
Assuming he plans on going up there and this rumor checks out.
Whatever it is. But he can still be one of the somebodies at 147. He is capable enough that in the absence of a Jaron Ennis, he can definitely win some of the fights with some of the somebodies at 147. And super middleweight news on the heels of his latest defeat. Edgar Berlanga posted this caption to his Instagram page. It reads, "This past month, I've seen a lot of people talking about that suspicious hand wrap, and me, I agree 100%. That left hand wrap was suspicious. I take my wins and my losses humbly. God is the greatest always and forever king. Shout out to all my fans and supporters. I love you guys. Ain't never going to stop greatness. We'll be back soon."
The only people I've seen talking about this would-be controversy are people that are calling it bullshit, are people that don't believe it was suspicious, don't believe anything out of the ordinary happened, a hype job got exposed, and that's all it was.
That if this glovegate fiasco doesn't have the same traction as, say, Deontay Wilder's glovegate fiasco, it's because this is not a sharp deviation from what anybody thought about Edgar.
Remember, there were people that genuinely thought Wilder was this era's George Foreman, that he was one of the biggest punchers the sport had ever seen. So when Fury goes in there and beats his ass, it's a sharp deviation from what they thought. Their minds struggled to process that. Whereas when it comes to Edgar, nobody thought that kind of stuff about Edgar.
Nobody thought that Edgar was this era's Bazooka Gomez or Felix Trinidad. Nobody thought he was this era's Miguel Cotto. When it comes to Edgar, the writing's been on the wall, and it's been on the wall for a while now.
This is what many people forecasted would happen eventually. Eventually, this guy's gonna get knocked out real bad because this guy sucks. You already had the Canelo fight. You already had the biggest fight you can have at this weight. Now, you have to deal with the rest of the division.
Just back to the point. When Edgar goes out there and gets knocked out the way that he did, it's not a 180. It's not a deviation from what anybody thought would happen. It's exactly what they thought would happen. So there's no need to stir up a controversy. There's no need for there to be any foul play.
Loaded raps. That Edgar's glovegate fiasco doesn't have the same traction as Wilder's because nobody really thought Edgar was good. And I ain't no Monday morning quarterback. I picked Hamza Shiraz to beat him in my prediction video ahead of the fight. I said he's gonna knock him out because Edgar sucks.
Preliminary reports indicate that he's charting a December return. Under what promotional banner? I don't know, because Edgar is a free agent. I don't get the sense that Turkey's invited him back to box on one of his Riyadh season shows, and I don't get the sense that Matchroom would be at the helm of the promotion because Edgar's a free agent. He's not attached to them anymore.
He's been there and done that with Top Rank, who are between broadcasters right now. He's been there and done that with Matchroom. I don't think the PBC has any money for him.
I don't think he's likely to go over there. The only other place Edgar hasn't been that might provide reasonable accommodation would have to be MVP. I don't rule out a move to most valuable promotions for Edgar Berlanga because it just so happens that MVP, they have ties to the island of Puerto Rico, as does Edgar. Jake Paul, he lives there, and they promote Puerto Rican icon Amanda Serrano, Puerto Rican up-and-comer Crystal Rosado.
I could see Edgar going over there.
Even if that's just me bouncing ideas around, irrespective of where it is, Edgar goes next. It's really the same situation. You're gonna have to match this guy, Baby Soft, to get him back in the winner's bracket and keep him in the winner's bracket. Because any solid super middleweight you put him in there with, any solid guy, and I mean anybody, they beat him.
Yeah.
Whether it's Lester the Molester Martinez, Mabili, Melenkuziev, Munguia, Pacheco.
Any solid super middleweight you put in there with him, they beat him.
Just the other day, Philly Rican, Gabe Rosado, had a comeback fight, bit low under the radar, and afterwards, he called out Gabriel Rosado. He called him out for a fight, the Philly Rican versus the New Yorican. I think you could sell some tickets with that. I think with that marketing angle, you can definitely sell it. But even against Gabe, who's lost to a lot of top shelf, top tier fighters, I don't trust Edgar. I don't trust Edgar Berlanga to get the win. Not even against Gabe.
That's not a backhanded compliment either. Gabe has spirit. Gabe has heart. And you need to compete at a certain level to beat him. What a lot of people in boxing like to call a gatekeeper.
And what separates a gatekeeper from a journeyman or a stumble bum? A gatekeeper has ability, some ability to keep the gate. Not everybody's getting in.
You know, a stumble bum or a journeyman, they're just there to give you some rounds, give you some work. Whereas a gatekeeper, if you're not careful, they'll beat you.
Everybody can't be a Canelo Alvarez, you know? Everybody can't be a Terrence Crawford or an Usyk or an Inoue. These gatekeepers like Gabe Rosado really are the backbone of professional boxing. Unsung heroes that fight with their hearts.
And put on a show. So, believe me when I say, that's not a backhanded compliment. Gabe Rosado may be too much for Edgar Berlanga because Gabe actually has ability.
And a lot more experience against high-level fighters than Edgar Berlanga. So, if they make that fight...
I don't know how much Edgar likes the sound of that, but Edgar's kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place based on his ability or the lack thereof. There are only so many fights left that will get him paid.
You could do Rosado versus Berlanga on the island of Puerto Rico. MVP can promote it, and the fight can be broadcasted on DAZN. Just an idea.
And on the undercard, you can have some of those girls, some of those fighters that MVP just signed. Just an idea.
That's the latest. Edgar's supposed to be coming back at the end of the year. With who? We'll see.